Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. Today we are discussing a model launched as you see it here in 2022, the Patek Philippe 5204G-001 Perpetual Calendar Split Seconds Chronograph, now in white gold with green loomed dial. So the original 5004 split-second Perpetual, Le Mans based, came out in 1996, and its successor, the 5204, came out in 2012. Well, this evolves the breed. 10 years on from its original release, we now have a very wrist-friendly and daily-friendly split-second Perpetual calendar chronograph. So in white gold, 40 millimeters in diameter, 14.4 millimeters thick, and from lug tip to lug tip, very compact for its diameter at 46.9 millimeters with a 20 millimeter spacing between the lugs. On my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference, you can see that this really is a watch that's wrist friendly. Not budget friendly, but wrist friendly. It's not too big. It's also not too thick, and while 14.4 isn't thin, the particularly sloped case and concave bezel mitigate fit issues with a tight sleeve. Over the top, which always exaggerates the width of the watch, you can see the lugs are still not over the edge of my wrist. This is an unbroken in-factory strap, so I'm pulling it fairly tight, but down the barrel, which is the definitive angle, you can see this is nowhere near the edge of my wrist. I could recommend this watch for wrists as small as 14 centimeters circumference. Really special stuff. Strap to match the dial, a white stitch on green calfskin, and you can see calfskin on the bottom as well. Patek Philippe factory strap in outstanding condition with the company's modern pull tab spring bars, so you can pop the strap off without resort to a tool. We have a full clasp. The watch is white gold, so is the clasp. You can see there's a little circular spring, and it is a snap-shut friction-based mechanism that holds it closed. Calatrava cross, the logo of the company. You'll also see it, for example, on the reverse side of the watch, although it's hidden well. You can see it on the straps. And so the watch in white gold is actually what's known as gray gold. So right here, this is an 18-karat white gold alloy that is white all the way through and never requires rhodium plating. So the idea here is that this is the good stuff. I believe Patek's been using gray gold since at least 2006, and it's not quite as blindingly white as rhodium-plated white gold, but the good news is it never has to be plated, and if it's ever scratched, it doesn't show another color. So this is the good stuff, as used by everyone from Rolex to Jaeger-LeCoultre to Greubel Forsey. What you can also see here is how the case is made. These lugs exquisitely welded to the case by hand, with all evidence of the gathered material of the weld removed using files to create these sharp breaks. Since its first foray into case making with the purchase of Geneva case maker Atelier Réuni in 1975, Patek has moved forward with leaps and bounds, and the sophistication of this lug junction speaks to Patek's advancements. And really, this is a beautifully handmade case, a work of art in its own right. There's a little bit of a fluting on the edge of the lugs, and then you can see how the bezel is concave to pair the visual mass. Coaxial chronograph pusher for the split-second mechanism. And you can see how that works. We have the ability to time two events that occur concurrently and the ability to start and stop. This is not a so-called mono pusher, split second. We have a slightly domed sapphire over dial that is a beautiful sunburst green with a little bit of a gradient fade from light at the center to dark at the edge. And what makes this an everyday friendly watch, as I suggested earlier, is that it is quite well loomed and nicely sized. Perpetual calendar, of course, with the ability to account for irregular length months and leap years, does not need to be adjusted until the year 2100. We've got a leap year indicator, we've got the day, we've got a radial date coaxial with the moon phase, we've got the month, and then a day-night indicator that lets you know, for example, whether you're looking at AM or PM. This is important because you need to know when setting the watch whether you're in the danger zone where you should not be using the pusher correctors for the calendars. When that is blue, you're in the danger zone, so you know you're looking at 8 p.m. It's generally about 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. You don't want to touch the calendars. The moon phase has an adjustment interval of once every 122 years, so it'll actually go a little bit longer than the perpetual calendar in terms of staying true. The hands are of white gold, so they won't tarnish or oxidize over time. And if you look carefully, there are some texture details, such as concentric patterns on the flanking registers. And we have this lovely little celestial moon phase with crescent-style display. Look carefully, and you'll even see that what appear to be printed indices are applique white gold features. So a very upscale dial, deserving of a movement to match, and it has one. Caliber 29-535 PSQ, manual wind, and yes, this is a modern Patek in-house movement. It does have hacking seconds, 65-hour power reserve, twin column wheels, and the twin column wheels are for the split-second function. You can see that one in action right here, with the pincers that stop the center second. And then there is the primary column wheel, which is right here, capped and black polished with a black polished cap. That's an old Geneva trick, although it's a style today. Once upon a time, the column wheel cap served to avoid ejecting the levers and horns from the crenellated towers of the columns. The idea was to keep those features planted if the movement got shocked. Like so much of finish, the capped and polished column wheel once had a very functional purpose. All this beats sway at 4 Hertz, 34 joules. It is adjusted in 6 positions, not the chronometer standard of 5. And it is a free-sprung Gyromax style balance with an overcoil hairspring, and the free-sprung Gyromax means it can be adjusted very precisely. It's more shock tolerant, so timing won't change under conditions of shock. And then the overcoil actually gives it concentric breathing in any position, which allows it to be a better timekeeper in the many different orientations that a watch might experience on the wrist. This is all very important because this is designed to be an everyday wearable watch, so it must be everyday accurate. We have a screwed-in case back. The watch is water-resistant to 30 meters, and despite what Patek may be saying these days, I still don't recommend swimming with that. We do have a lot of different elements of finish, stripes across the rhodium-plated brass bridges. We have satination on top of the steel chronograph components. They're beveled on their side. The bridges are also beveled on their sides. You can see both. Let's see how I can show this to better advantage. Both steel and brass parts beveled beautifully on their sides. We do have black polish on the column wheel cap, as well as the spring for the split-second system, or the master spring anyway, and all of the screw heads, as well as the locating pegs that help to locate springs and bridges on underlying structures. You can also see that we have engine turning on the base plate, satination on all the wheels, and a pawl-based instantaneous minute jumper. There is a lot to love here. And if you love this watch, reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916 Company for purchase and pricing details.